And these are the old city walls actually of Warsaw. So inside is the old city. We're walking obviously on the other side. Very pretty actually. Some of it is obviously no longer in existence due to the war, but quite a fair section of it is still in place. They've done a lot more effort here, obviously as it is the capital, to maintain and clean things up. This monument is a tribute to all the children that were part of the resistance. So this is the monument to the uprising, Warsaw uprising that occurred on the 1st of August 1944. It's really terrible what actually happened here. I never ever knew about this piece of history. Behind it is actually the Supreme Court of Poland. And over there you'll see those symbols. It says a P and a W, which means uprising Warsaw. But apparently the nationalists have taken over that symbol, so we won't talk about that any further. Look, they thought, the local Polish people thought that the Russians, they knew the Russians were only 2-3 days away on the other side of the river, which is behind me, and so they thought that that the Soviets were going to give them a hand to get the Nazis out of the city. They only had 3 days of bullets to fight, and they did fight. But unfortunately the Soviets did come, and they just sat on the other side of the river and they just waited, because Stalin knew, because he had made this secret pact with Hitler in 1932, he knew that he would just be able to take the city and it would become a communist city. Now what the guide has just told us is that prior to the war there was 1.2 million people living in Warsaw. So after Hitler had given his orders to after the uprising, he gave two orders. He gave 2 orders for the city to be wiped off the map, and for all people that lived here to be killed, shot on the spot, or to be taken to concentration camps. Guess how many people were left over at the end of the war? 1,000 people. He wiped out the whole population. Now this is another part of the memorial. This is actually a Polish soldier going down into the sewers. So that's how a lot of people managed to escape. They went down into the sewers and they managed to get out of Warsaw that way. It's also told us is that there's a manhole sitting there in the middle of the street. 5,000 people managed to escape through that. So if you can read what I can read, that means that we're outside of the ghetto wall. This was actually part of the Jewish quarters. So here is a piece of the wall left. 500,000 people were gathered up here, people from Warsaw and from surrounding villages. And this is actually where the uprising started of the ghetto on the 19th of April 1943. People were leaving from this square. That's where they would round up the Jewish people and they'd take them to a camp north of here. And the guy just told us that they murdered 17,000 people per day. They murdered just as many Jewish people in that camp as what they did in Auschwitz, 1.2 million people. It churns your stomach. We have just simply stumbled across this section of the wall. And it was only that there was a sign in German that said, you know, memorial, so I kind of thought, oh well, I'll walk in this direction. So yeah, there's the palace, and then Palace of Culture, the Stalin Museum, just some new buildings, and honestly, they have just built apartment blocks around it. Look, this is what you're looking at. It's just the most unusual thing I have ever seen in my life. Now, apparently the bricks were made by the Nazis. So it's a different war what you had in Krakow. How many monuments there are around Warsaw. Now, this one is another one. They were on the spot on the 28th of January 1944. There were 102 Poles were shot. So they've kept the old house here, just the wall of the house. Obviously the house has been gone now, it was demolished in 1972. But yeah, this is another memorial. So what happened is, after the uprising of 1944, obviously the Polish people lost. It was still occupied by the Germans. They then started to just simply round people up on the street, and they were just shooting people. And then here is the castle. We've just found out that this building was actually not reconstructed until 1975, and originally it was white, and they then had a competition among the people that lived here and asked them what colour they wanted it, and it was decided by popular vote that they wanted to have it this pink colour, and I think it looks actually rather nice. So we're going to go and explore the old city. It's the last thing that we're going to do on this visit to Warsaw. And then it's time to make our way back to our apartment, go and pack and get ready for our 10-hour bus trip tomorrow morning.